As nurse researchers, we must ensure that all our studies uphold the rights and well-being of participants while generating valuable knowledge for nursing practice. Let us discuss the ethical principles and guidelines of nursing research. And let us keep in mind that adherence to these principles and guidelines is an important component. Ethics must be foundational to all our research activities. It is not enough to generate knowledge. We must ensure that we respect and protect the dignity, rights, and welfare of the people who participate in our studies. The field of research ethics arose in response to severe abuses of human rights in scientific studies. One of the darkest chapters was the Nazi medical experiments during the 1930s and 1940s. Prisoners of war and persecuted minorities were subjected to brutal procedures without consent, violating both their bodies and dignity. This led to the creation of the Nuremberg Code, the first set of ethical principles mandating voluntary consent of research participants. However, abuses continued. From 1932 to 1972, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study deliberately withheld treatment from African American men with syphilis to study disease progression. In response, new international standards were developed. The Declaration of Helsinki in 1964, which was revised in 2013, established ethical principles for medical research involving human subjects. The Belmont Report in 1978 articulated the three key principles that should be observed in research: respect for persons, beneficence, and justice. In the Philippines, these global principles were reflected in our national ethical guidelines for research involving human participants in 2022. This was issued by the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board. In addition to general research ethics, nurses are guided by professional codes of ethics. We have the American Nurses Association Code of Ethics. These include principles applicable to nurse researchers. The International Council of Nurses, or ICN, Code of Ethics is a global reference for ethical nursing conduct. The Canadian Nurses Association, or CNA Code of Ethics, is also relevant in collaborative international research. In the Philippines, we have the Philippine Health Research Ethics Board. The PHREB is a national policy-making body in health research ethics in the country. This was created under the DOST, or the Department of Science and Technology, Special Order Number 91, Series of 2006. This is to ensure adherence to the universal ethical principles for the protection and promotion of the dignity of health research participants. And we observe their national ethical guidelines for research involving human participants, and is now our primary national guideline for protecting human participants in all forms of research. With regards to government regulations and oversight in our country, ethical oversight of research is mandated by the Republic Act 10532, or the Philippine National Health Research System Act of 2013, which mandates the PHREB and accredited Research Ethics Committee. The Philippine Health Research Ethics Board accredits research ethics committees to ensure compliance with ethical standards nationwide. All research involving human participants must undergo review and receive approval from a PHREB accredited rec before any data collection begins. Importantly, the Data Privacy Act of 2012, or RA 10173, also governs how we collect, store, and process personal data in research. There are primary ethical principles we must observe. These principles that guide all research include respect for persons. This principle demands informed consent and respect for participants' autonomy. Vulnerable groups such as the elderly, children, prisoners, and those with impairment require additional protections. Beneficence. Researchers must strive to maximize potential benefits and minimize possible harm. Research should be designed to serve both the participants and the society. Non-Maleficence. We must actively prevent causing physical, psychological, social, or legal harm to our respondents. Justice. Participants must be selected fairly, without exploiting vulnerable groups. The right to fair treatment and the right to privacy are critical dimensions of justice. Respect for communities. This one is added for our Philippine guidelines. Researchers must engage meaningfully with communities, especially indigenous peoples. Community consent, such as free, prior, and informed consent, or FPIC, is required when working with IPs. This is under the Republic Act 8371, or the Indigenous Peoples' Rights Act of 1997. To uphold these ethical principles, we implement specific ethical procedures. Risk-benefit assessment. Researchers must conduct a formal assessment of potential risks and benefits. Informed consent must be clear, understandable, voluntary, and include details about how participants' data will be used. Data privacy and confidentiality. Strict data management procedures must protect participants' information. Debriefing. If applicable and needed, participants should be debriefed after their participation. There are vulnerable groups that we must provide extra protections to. These include children, pregnant women, terminally ill patients, prisoners, persons with disabilities, economically disadvantaged populations. Beyond the ethical principles of the Belmont Report and the PHREB guidelines, Philippine researchers must comply with the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Key principles of the Act include transparency. Participants must be fully informed about how their personal data will be used and stored. Legitimate purpose. Researchers must collect data only for clearly defined ethical research purposes. Proportionality. Data collection should be limited to what is necessary to achieve the research objectives. Researchers should be mindful of their responsibilities. To implement organizational, physical, and technical safeguards to protect data. Clearly state data privacy provisions in the informed consent document. Secure and eventually dispose of personal data properly, consistent with DPA requirements. Report any data breaches to the National Privacy Commission and to participants if required. All research involving human participants in the Philippines must undergo prior review and approval by a PHREB accredited Research Ethics Committee or REC. The review process includes submitting a detailed research protocol to the REC. The REC may issue approval, conditional approval, deferral, or rejection. No data collection can begin until full approval is obtained. During the study, researchers must submit progress reports and final reports to the REC. Report any adverse events or protocol deviations immediately. The REC ensures that your study respects both international ethical standards and also national standards, and that participants' rights are protected at all stages. Despite our best efforts, ethical dilemmas may arise in real-world research settings. Examples of dilemmas include balancing rigor with participant welfare. If studying a new intervention, for example, a researcher could face a dilemma as to, is it ethical to withhold that intervention from a control group if early results show clear benefit? Managing sensitive topics and disclosures. Probing vulnerable populations such as abused women and grieving parents may yield important insights, but could also cause emotional distress. Protecting privacy in qualitative studies. In qualitative research, participants may share illegal or dangerous behaviors. How do we balance confidentiality with legal and ethical responsibilities? Another common dilemma is the potential conflict of roles. For example, as a nurse, we may feel compelled to provide help to a participant. But as a researcher, we need to follow the study protocol. Balancing these roles require careful ethical reflection and adherence to REC-approved plan. To summarize, nursing research must be guided by ethical principles, such as respect for persons, beneficence, non-maleficence, justice, and respect for communities. Key procedures has to be implemented, and these include risk assessment, informed consent, privacy protection, and ethics review. Researchers must comply with both the national ethical guidelines for research involving human participants and the Data Privacy Act of 2012. Finally, it is our duty as nurse researchers to protect the dignity, rights, and welfare of all who participate in our studies, and to uphold the highest standards of ethical conduct.